So welcome to the podcast. It's been weeks since we've done an episode. In fact, it's been so long, I can't even remember what episode number this is. I'm going to check. It is episode number 86. And this week, we're thinking about something that came out in the newspaper, magazine type stuff a few weeks ago. I had a friend and fellow coach put up a post about it. It was all about Orlando Bloom's morning routine. So I was curious and I Googled it. I read the articles. There's been a lot of piss taking and a lot of, people mocking his routine and the things he explained that he does every day. He talks about brain octane oil. He talks about his meditation. He talks about kind of fitnessy stuff. He talks about everything he does in the morning to prime himself to, be a better human and have a better day. And naturally, there's been a lot of piss taking, a lot of slanderous comments, a lot of, generally negative responses. And I can understand why, because the tone that the article was written in is a little bit off, but the content and when you actually break down what it is that he's doing, he's essentially biohacking. And everybody's heard of biohacking. It's become a massive thing over the years. But because we often don't understand what the person is doing or why they're doing it, it becomes easier to just take the piss out of it, It becomes easier to mock something that we don't understand because we either don't understand it or, we perhaps wish we could do that as well, but we don't have the available resources. So, we mock it instead. And unfortunately, that's the way many things happen in the world, and it shouldn't be that way. But as with anything, the context of it matters, because the things that Orlando Bloom is doing in the morning are not the type of things that somebody who is just starting out on a journey of thinking and feeling better would be doing. It's all relative. Somebody who is at the start of their journey isn't going to be caring about brain octane oil and 40-minute meditations and all this kind of stuff. Whereas the person who is down that path, the person who has gone through that process and has grown beyond the basics, is going to want to take things to the next level. So we've got to remember that context matters. And so does meeting yourself where you're currently at. If you were to start on a journey of wanting to feel and think better, and you started doing all the things that Orlando Bloom was doing, I could guarantee you would very quickly burn out and you would quit, because he's doing a lot and he's doing stuff that's beyond the level of a beginner. So it's very important to understand that his point where he is now is completely different to where you may be at or where somebody else is at. I've seen it in my own evolution over the years. The things I used to do within my own morning primers are different now to what they were 5 years ago. And to be completely honest, I understand all of those things he's doing because I have tried them myself. Brain octane oil is something that was created by the guys at Bulletproof Coffee. It's essentially an MCT oil made from coconut, so you put in your coffee. Anyone who's on a keto diet or kind of looking for that higher level brain performance will have heard of that, So nothing that he's doing is weird. It's just in a different context. It depends on where you're at. And I think for most of us, if we had the resources that Orlando Bloom has, and we had the ability to explore the depth of human performance, we would, but we're also quick to judge stuff when we don't understand it fully or we're not able to experience it ourselves. It's easier to just laugh at it and mock it and write it off, when in reality, given the opportunity, I think most of us would have some brain octane oil every morning. We would meditate for 40 minutes. We would eat his fancy porridge and all the other stuff. Anything that gives us an edge, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? And like I said, I've experimented with much of those things myself. Some things have stayed part of my routines and some of them haven't. But it's all relative. And I think the key point here is not about morning routines. It's not about brain octane oil. It's not about biohacking. The key point here is that before you make a judgment, educate yourself. Maybe even try it yourself. Perhaps treat things a little bit more like a scientist, gather a hypothesis, do a bit of testing, get some data, and then make your conclusion. I think life for many people would be better if we treated things that way, rather than making a stark judgment in the moment and writing it off and taking the piss and mocking someone for doing the best that they can, because that's ultimately what Orlando Bloom is doing. Yeah, it probably didn't come across in the right way, which is probably partially, down to the way it was reported, but it's not about making judgments. It's about understanding and educating yourself and trying things, because you don't know. You might find that sticking some brain octane oil in your coffee completely changes the way you feel, and you feel better for it. And that's ultimately what it's about. Anyone that goes down that route of doing these things that maybe seem a little bit weird and a little bit out there, they're just trying to feel better. They're trying to do better. They're trying to be better, because that's ultimately all we can ever do. If we can be better, if we can do better, then maybe collectively we can make the world a little bit better. But that won't happen until we all become open enough to educate ourselves, to try things, to be willing to experiment, rather than shutting things down and labeling them as ridiculous and piss-taking, which is what, we're all guilty of at times. So the lesson here is, when you see something you don't understand, be open, educate yourself about it, and even better, try it. Try it yourself, because it's in that trying and that testing that you learn the most. And then you perhaps gain a new experience and a new perspective, and you'll see things differently. Let's start treating life maybe a little bit more like a science experiment. Hypothesis, tests, data collections, conclusions, rather than missing out the middle bit. So that's the lesson for today. It's all gone off on a tangent, because I was going to talk a little bit more in detail about Orlando Bloom's routine, but I think the key point here of be less judgmental and more experimental is the key takeaway. So have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all in the next episode, which will be whenever I decide. See you soon.